The Hanford Downwinders initiated one of the first federal public liability actions under the Price-Anderson Nuclear Industries Indemnity Act. The Act indemnifies contractors for liability or injuries caused by Department of Energy nuclear facilities. It also specifies that people should receive prompt, adequate compensation for injuries following a nuclear incident at any U.S. nuclear facility. Trisha Pritikin describes the obstacles faced by the Downwinders and the results after 25 years of litigation.
This was, I think, one of the first cases filed under Price-Anderson using the public liability cause of action, which was created right before the case was filed. It's a new way of suing if you're an injured person. And it showed us that because there are indemnification agreements for all the contractors that ran Hanford and all the other sites around the country, which means if a company like DuPont or GE agreed to run this very potentially hazardous site, where they're producing one of the most dangerous substances known to man, plutonium, that they would be indemnified if anybody down the line sued for personal injury. So they were indemnified by the U.S. government, and then they would run the plant under those indemnification agreements. And the reason that's relevant is that in this litigation, the plaintiffs' counsel, who only had a certain amount of funding, just whatever they could get, were facing $80 million worth of defense costs being poured into the defense for the contractors under indemnification agreements. And it was called a scorched earth defense. It was just all out, we're going to defeat these downwinders no matter what. And that defeats the intent of Price-Anderson. One of the intents of Price-Anderson was to provide compensation to people injured by, nuclear sites like Hanford when those cases merited compensation, and not to put the entire money of the Treasury, including the Downwinders' own taxpayer dollars, into the defense against our claims.
By 2015, all of the Hanford Downwinders' personal injury claims were either settled or dismissed. Tom Foulds, one of the lawyers who represented the Hanford Downwinders, reflects on the actions of Hanford contractors and the government at the time of Hanford's off-site releases.
The case should have been tried, period. And I feel that the remedy that was obtained was something that you could live with regret, because the case should have been tried. Their conduct was a lot more than just being responsible for the releases that came out. There was a great deal of outrageous conduct on their part. They knew, for example, over periods of time, that they were releasing excess amounts of radiation, and they took no steps to warn the public, which they could have. They could have put everybody on a non-radioactive iodine diet, which would have made a tremendous difference. They could have done a number of things. I thought their conduct was really outrageous. Knowing what they did and knowing that the releases that they were permitting were certain to cause disease troubles. They knew that empirically. They knew that it already happened to the sheep.
Trisha Pritikin looks back on the outcomes of Downwinder litigation.
A lot of the people who did get at least small settlements in the litigation had other cancers as well as thyroid cancer. They could only get compensation if they had thyroid cancer, thyroid nodules, or leukemias if they lived on the river, and a couple other cancers, which are river cancers. The other people didn't get any compensation because there was no way to establish the causal link between their disease and the radionuclides. A lot of people died during the litigation or gave up. One lady committed suicide because she couldn't wait any longer, left a note saying, "I can't wait any longer, this litigation has gone way too long." That's not justice. That's not what Price Anderson intended. They intended efficient compensation for those who merited compensation after exposure, from a nuclear incident. So Price Anderson's intent was not fulfilled by this litigation.
Author Stephen Olson reinforces the Downwinders' sense of injustice in his book, Hanford. As Olson observes, the Chicago-based law firm that the government hired to defend itself against the lawsuits made tens of millions of dollars, substantially more than the plaintiffs received.